Master Brothers.
And this is the Audi e-tron 50 Quattro Technik.
We're going to break it down using the master rating, so stay tuned to the end to see how well it does.
Yeah, and if you want to learn more about the master rating, check out our website. The link is in the description. First, we have money. Now this is the Technik 50 Quattro, which means that it's the most basic version.
It starts from £60,000 or $66,000, but like most German cars, as soon as you start adding some options, it'll really add up.
Yes, just classic. You can also go for one of its electric competitors like the Mercedes EQC or the Jaguar I-Pace, and both of those start from around £65,000. Or the I-Pace is also available in America for $70,000, but you can't get the EQC in America yet.
If you really wanted to splash out the cash, you could go for the Tesla Model X, but that's going to cost you £90,000.
That's a lot.
It's quite a big price jump.
Yeah.
Like most electric cars, maintenance costs are very minimal, and it will cost you about 2p per mile to run the car if you're on the Go tariff from Octopus Energy.
And to find out why you should switch to Octopus Energy, check out our video up here. And then when you do, make sure you use the link in our description for £50 off your bill.
Nice. Now for the aesthetics, they haven't strayed too far away from that classic Audi design, so it looks like a normal car, and they haven't tried to do something like the VW ID3 or BMW i3 where they made it really funky, right?
Yeah, like the proportions are all just quite weird, and like, I don't know why car makers are doing that with electric cars, but I think Audi have done quite well here to kind of make it look normal. So the grille kind of has a Venetian blind effect where like part of it is closed and then part of it is open, but I think it actually looks kind of cool. It must help with aerodynamics as well.
I'm not the biggest fan.
Yeah. Then there's also some vents in the front that help to improve the efficiency.
Above them, you have the Matrix LED highlights, which come as standard, and they can also dim part of the beams so you don't blind other drivers.
Moving to the side now, with the Technik package, you get 20-inch alloys as standard, and if you go all the way up to the Vorsprung package, those will be 22-inch alloys. But, I mean, these ones look pretty decent anyways.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Standard, basic, not bad.
Then you have the charging port, which has by far one of the coolest openings I've seen on an electric car.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And you get one on both sides. So the passenger side has a Type 2 port, and the driver's side has a CCS2 port. So the driver's side is the one that you use for fast charging, and the Type 2 will work for like at-home chargers.
They just need to create one charger that just works, and every car has that.
It's going to be CCS2, because you can use Type 2 in the CCS2, yeah.
Oh. Never mind then.
If you're enjoying the video so far, be sure to like and subscribe. You'll really help us grow our channel and get more cool cars like this. We're also looking to review other really cool or interesting cars, so if you have one that you'd let us review around Greater London, please let us know.
Now back to the review. The rest of the sides have some solid body lines and a little bit of extra plastic at the bottom, which looks pretty nice.
Yeah, and the rest of the car is pretty standard, like pretty standard Audi design language, but at the back, they also have the solid taillight bar, which is, like, it looks really cool, and especially at night when it's lit up and kind of contrasting against that black paint as well. Looks pretty good.
That's definitely my favorite bit. Actually, charge ports. That's a close.
Close one, close one.
Tied. Alright, enough with the exterior. What's it like inside?
It's pretty nice, as you'd expect from Audi, and there's a lot of quality materials pretty much everywhere. There is a lot of piano black though, which collects loads of fingerprints and loads of dust.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of annoying.
Make sure you have a microfiber cloth in the car, because there's a lot of it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's pretty well designed, and it's mostly tailored for the driver, like with the infotainment screen and the vents mostly pointed in the direction of the driver.
Yeah, it's just got a slight angle to it. The only thing that's a little bit odd is that palm rest right by the gear selector. It's just like, it's not something that you see every day in a car. But I think actually as we used it, we got used to it, and it is pretty practical because it's quite nice to rest your hand there while you're using that touchscreen for the climate controls. So it is pretty good actually.
Initially I thought it was really weird and stupid, but then, I mean, even after like 5 minutes of being in it, your palm just naturally goes there.
Yeah.
So it's actually really useful.
Now there's 3 screens in the car, and each of them serve a different purpose, but we'll go into these more in the tech section.
If you wanted to add some options to your interior, we'd recommend getting the Comfort and Sound Pack for £1,900. You'll get a 16 speaker Bang & Olufsen sound system, some multicolored LED lighting, keyless entry, and a 360-degree camera system. Did I forget something?
You got it.
I got it.
It's just long.
I got it. That took so long to get.
Now for sense, we're going to talk about how it feels and how practical it is. So let's start off with what it's like to drive. So you've got 308 horsepower and 398 pound-feet of torque in this base model, and it is all-wheel drive because it has one motor in the front and one in the back, and you'll get from 0 to 60 in 6.8 seconds. So it's not super quick, but I mean, it is quick enough. And because it's electric, you've got that instant torque, so it does have that sensation of being quick, because like you put your foot down and it just goes instantly.
Yeah, it's quick and it feels much more planted in the road than the Tesla. It's still very comfortable, but you feel more like you're driving a car. I don't know how to say it, but that's...
Yeah, the Tesla just doesn't have that refinement in the suspension or the ride or anything, whereas Audi, you can feel the years of expertise in making cars, and it just feels so much nicer to sit in. And in the Tesla as well, sometimes you feel a little bit queasy, a little bit sick, but in the Audi, there's none of that. It's just like comfortable, just feels nice to ride in, so...
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
It's very different. Now, Audi claim that the Technik 50 Quattro will get about 190 miles of range from the 71 kilowatt-hour batteries, which is not great. But if you go for the Technik 55 Quattro, you'll get 245 miles from a 95 kilowatt-hour battery, which is better, but you're still paying 11 grand more to get an acceptable range.
Yeah, to be honest though, I don't think the range is like too big of an issue. It just is something that you really need to weigh up how many long journeys you're going to be doing, because like we did drive the car quite a lot over the weekend, and I mean the range was fine for us. We didn't have to charge it or anything. So yeah, just think about if you're going to be doing long road trips or anything like that.
Now if you do want that extra range, you could go for a Mercedes EQC, which has a claimed range of 255 miles, or you could go with the Jaguar I-Pace, which claims 286 miles of range. And both of these are around 6 grand cheaper than the 55. So you could really ask yourself, is range a priority? Because if it is, then the I-Pace and the EQC is probably a better option.
Yeah, and both of these cars are quicker, so they'll both go from 0 to 60 in less than 5 seconds. And the ride quality is probably like just as good, if not better than the Audi.
Now this car comes with paddle shifters, which was a bit confusing at first, but we actually realized it's a pretty clever addition.
Yeah, so in the driving settings, if you shift your recuperation mode to manual, that's when the paddle shifters will become active. And if you shift down on the left paddle, you'll increase the level of recuperation or regeneration. And if you shift up, you'll decrease the level of regeneration. So it's kind of like shifting down in a car to increase the engine brake, and shifting up will kind of reduce the engine brake and let you coast a little bit more. Now the e-tron is actually set up to prefer coasting. So in the driving settings, if you have your recuperation mode set to automatic, if you lift off of the accelerator pedal, instead of slowing down and regenerating the energy, if there isn't a car in front of you, you'll basically just roll at the same speed because the car is just in neutral, using its momentum to keep going. If the car does detect a car in front of you while you're off the accelerator pedal, it'll then automatically apply a bit of regen to slow you down to basically match the speed of the car in front. It won't fully stop you though, so there's no one pedal driving in this car. You will have to use the brake pedals to come to a complete stop.
The brake pedal does include regeneration, and the transition between the regen and the friction brakes is pretty seamless, like you won't really notice it at all.
Now the e-tron can feel a little bit tall, you sit quite high in it, and it also feels a little bit wide, but we drove on some very narrow country lanes and we managed to squeeze through with like a 5 Series going on the other side, so while it may feel a bit wide, it's actually a really good size.
Yeah, and the visibility also helps quite a bit because it is quite good, so yeah, I think it's very drivable.
Definitely, yeah.
Now for space, there's plenty of legroom and headroom, and there is enough room to fit 3 people fairly comfortably.
The seats in the back also sit nice and high relative to the floor, which you don't see very often in electric cars because they have to have so many batteries underneath that the floor is usually quite high. But in the e-tron you get plenty of under-thigh support, and you still have plenty of headroom as well, so yeah, it is pretty good.
There's a good amount of room and storage at the front, and by the driver's side there's a little compartment underneath the steering column that provides a bit of extra storage.
Now, one of the advantages of the e-tron over its competitors is the size of its boot.
At 660 litres, it's 14% bigger than the Jaguar I-Pace and 32% bigger than the Mercedes EQC.
And from the back, you can really easily fold down the seats. There's some levers and it's spring-loaded, so the seats just fly down.
Yeah, they'll really just shoot down, and then you've got a nice through load.
Yeah.
Through loading? It's flat bed.
There's also a frunk, but there isn't really much storage space in there. It's pretty much just good for a charging cable.
Connectivity-wise, you've got 2 USB-C ports and a 12-volt socket at the front, another 12-volt socket at the back, and one more in the boot.
Yeah, if you go for a more premium version of the e-tron, you will get some USB-C sockets in the back, but on the base model, they didn't decide to stick them in there.
It's crazy the stuff they didn't include. Like, they don't even have cup holders in the base model.
Yeah, in the back you don't have cup holders. But yeah, it's I mean, it's kind of a classic Audi, like, German car thing to do.
So
Make you pay extra for it, but yeah.
Because you have the thing there.
Yeah.
But...
Now for technology, we're going to be looking at the driving tech, the comfort and interior tech, and the safety and security features.
So for driving, as standard, you get a multi-function camera, which is used for lane departure warnings and to tell the headlights when to blink out part of their beam.
You also get a reversing camera standard, but for £725 extra, you can get a full 360-degree camera viewing system, which is really cool, and like you can drag it around and change the angle that you're looking at. So it's really good for getting into tight spaces.
Yeah, it's not as good as the one in the Defender, but it's still really good.
Yeah, and if you want to check out the one that's in the Defender, go check out our review of that up here.
If you get the Tour Pack for £1,950, you'll get things like adaptive cruise control, lane departure avoidance, collision avoidance, and traffic sign recognition.
And for an extra £1,250, you can get cameras to replace the side mirrors, and the screens will show up here. This will help improve the aerodynamics, but if someone knocks them off, it's going to be a pretty expensive repair.
Now for comfort and interior, the steering wheel, seat, and mirrors do have plenty of adjustment, and there is a memory function so you can save your seating preferences.
The seats are quite firm, but they are pretty comfortable, and they hug you a little bit, so you feel pretty secure.
The seats at the front are also heated, and you can control them using that bottom climate control screen.
Yeah, I actually found the climate control screen to be pretty practical. Like, normally I would have preferred physical controls, but with that little wrist rest that you have, and then the haptic feedback on the screen, I think it actually worked quite well.
Yeah, that is true. It is pretty good. I didn't find myself wanting those physical buttons. Above the climate screen, you have that main infotainment screen, which has built-in navigation, a 4G connection, wireless Apple CarPlay, and for some reason, wired Android Auto.
Yeah, the reason is that Android Auto requires more data transfer, which it cannot do wirelessly, so Apple CarPlay is fine wirelessly, but Android Auto isn't. But, I mean, at least you have both, so yeah, it's fine.
Knowledge.
Both of the screens are really good too. Like, they're really clear, they have good responsiveness, and the haptic feedback is really cool as well. You do have to press kind of firmly to actually get the touch to register, so it's not just a tap, you do kind of have to press it.
It's actually, no, it does register the taps, but when you have haptic turned on, you do have to press and push in.
Okay.
You can turn it off.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, when you turn it off, it's actually really quick.
That's good to know. Then finally, we have the digital driver's display, which is clear and somewhat customizable, so you can have a full screen map or just the standard 2-dial display. The only problem with the map is that it won't integrate with Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. It'll only show you the car's built-in navigation map. So yeah, it's a bit limited in that respect.
There's also an app, but we didn't get a chance to play around with it. But apparently you can do things like check the range, charging status, turn on the climate, remotely lock it, check the location, and more. There's plenty of stuff. It's kind of like the Tesla app.
Probably not as good as the
Not
Tesla
as
app,
good, but similar functionality.
Now for safety and security, you get Audi Presense as standard, which uses sensors around the car to warn you if there's a collision that it predicts will happen. And it actually does work pretty well. Like, it will warn you if there's a car, if you're backing out and there's a car coming by or something like that. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's pretty good. Well, we haven't had a chance to try it, so we don't know.
Yeah, we didn't get a chance to use it properly, which is probably a good thing.
Yes. It also has a blind spot indicator, like most cars, which will basically tell you when someone's in your blind spot. House bits the leg slap. House bits the leg slap. House bits the leg slap.
Now for this video and future reviews, we're changing expectations to emotion. So Milan, how did this car make you feel?
Well, it kind of made me think about the Model 3 and kind of comparing a new manufacturer to someone who's been doing it for a long time. And I think Teslas are just different. They're amazing in some ways, but terrible in others. And I felt like the Audi it's a good package. It felt more like a car.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what they're going for. They're not trying to make it like an EV, like, oh, we're going all electric and we're really futuristic. It's like, here's an Audi, but it's an electric car.
Yeah, that's a really good point actually. Like the Tesla, after sitting in the Audi, it felt like the Tesla was a bit of a one-trick pony. Like it would go really quick off the line and in a straight line. And yeah, Tesla has all the other cool toy box and kind of slightly gimmicky features, but like when it comes to just having a proper normal car, like the Audi just really, it felt really nice. And initially also the Audi e-tron has a bit of a bad rep because it's got not very good range and like it's not the most practical of the EVs, but after driving it, I did slowly start to really like it, and like I would actually consider getting one. It's just because it's just cool. I don't know. Maybe I probably need to sit in like the I-Pace or the EQC, but definitely compared to the Tesla, it just felt like much more of a complete car and a better sort of overall driving experience. So now let's figure out what our final master rating is.
So overall, I gave it a master rating of 37 out of 50.
And I gave it a 38 out of 50.
Giving us a grand total of 75 out of 100.
Yeah, so not bad. It did do pretty well. It's definitely not the best electric car that you can get, but I think it is definitely worthy of consideration. The main factors that you'll want to think about are if you'll really need that extra range. So if you're going to be doing a lot of journeys more than 190 miles, then maybe it's not the right one for you. And then also, when you give it a test drive, just think about, does it feel nice on the road? How does it make you feel when you're driving it? Because those things are pretty important, especially when you're spending this much money on a car.
Yeah, and also remember to take into consideration charging times, because it does charge at 150 kilowatts, but then you also have to find those chargers, which they're few and far between. Thanks for watching. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe.
We're also looking to review other really cool or interesting cars, so if you have one that you'd let us review around Greater London, please let us know. That's all from the Master Brothers. We'll catch you on the flippity flip.
Why did it work better when you said it?
Yeah, because you're just...